This bill creates a new section of law to implement a death penalty sentencing procedure for adults who commit sexual battery on a child less than 12 years of age, or who in attempt to commit a sexual battery injures the sexual organs of a child. Capital sexual battery, punishable by death or life imprisonment, has been part of Florida's history and is currently in our statutes for such crimes against young children. But we have not used the death penalty sentencing option in cases like this since the 1970s because of a string of court cases that many of us currently believe were decided wrongly. And even those court opinions agree that deciding and implementing punishments for criminal conduct is within the legislature's purview as long as we stay between the constitutional boundaries. This bill creates those constitutional boundaries by providing a sentencing procedure for those heinous crimes that's similar to our current death penalty laws for murder. Specifically, this bill provides that a jury death recommendation of not less than 8 jurors to sentence the capital sexual battery defendant to death. If fewer than 8 jurors recommends death, the jury's recommendation must be for life imprisonment without parole. And that currently exists. The court has the discretion to impose a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, or a sentence of death if the jury recommends death. There must be a finding of at least 2 aggravating factors, and that's different than the current murder, the current bill that's dealing with first-degree murder that's going through the Senate right now, which only requires 1 aggravating factor. But the jury must find 2 aggravating factors beyond a reasonable doubt, and then if the judge does it if the defendant waives jury procedure. The bill creates aggravating factors and mitigating circumstances that are customized to a capital sexual battery case for the jury's consideration in arriving at a sentencing recommendation. The court must enter a written order and must include the reasons for not accepting the jury's recommended sentence if they downward depart and sentence the defendant to life in prison as opposed to the death penalty. That's the bill, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Members, are there questions on the bill? Seeing no questions, we do have an amendment. It is take-up amendment barcode 783052 by Senator Martin. Senator Martin, recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you.
Or amendment.
Thank you. This amendment provides that the prosecutor must present evidence of 2 or more aggravating factors before the victim impact evidence may be introduced and argued by the prosecutor. This prevents the emotion of the victim's testimony from being presented before those important factors. This also creates a reference to a new capital sexual battery statute, which is 921.1425 for procedural purposes that are set forth in 921.137, which prohibits the imposition of the death penalty upon an intellectually disabled defendant. This also creates an appellate opportunity for the state if a circuit court fails to comply with sentencing procedures under the new capital sexual battery statute. That's the amendment.
Great. Members, are there questions on the amendment? Seeing no questions, is there appearance forms on the amendment? No appearance forms. Members, debate on the amendment? Seeing no debate, Senator Martin, you are recognized to close on the amendment.
I'll waive close.
Waive close. All in favor of the amendment, say yay. Yay. All opposed, say nay. The amendment is adopted. Is there any debate on the bill as amended? Leader Book.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate some of the comments that have been made. I just, obviously not a place for vengeance and for justice. But let's be clear about one thing. There is no statute of limitations that a victim suffers. This is a life sentence that is handed down to young children. We're talking about the youngest of the young in this bill. I was one of those kids. I still, to this day, don't want to talk about my age, 38 years old, deal with the very, very real lasting effects of this crime. It never goes away. Sometimes you close your eyes and you see it. I don't get a chance to make it stop. This is also not like, I think, capital cases with murder. This is different. We're talking about sex with young children. There is no coming back from that. These are hardwired issues you cannot fix. No amount of prison time is going to make that better for anyone. And guess what? A lot of times these cases plead down and these individuals get out. The woman who sexually assaulted me for 7 years of my life just got out. Right now, sitting in a detention facility waiting to be deported. I still live with the very lasting effects of what this is. It would be great if they were in prison forever, but they're not. They're not. If I knew where she was until the end of time, that would be great. I wouldn't worry about my own children. I wouldn't worry about my safety. But I have to. That's the reality. That's the reality. They hand down life sentences all the time. I know these kids. I see these kids. I walk alongside these kids. That's the reality.
Further debate? Seeing no, Senator Martin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Senator Baxley.
Senator Baxley.
Thank you very much. I think this is very fresh as we see much violence by very young people. And watching this personally in my own home area where some children have killed children, 12-year-old. And I have to agree with the sheriff. If you're not holding people accountable when they're little, they're not going to be accountable when they get older. And as hard as it may sound, you have to hold people accountable. They can no longer attribute everything evil they do to their social conditions or somebody. Everything is somebody else's fault. And we're building a society where people are not accountable for their own behavior, no matter what happened to them. I think this bill is very important for strengthening this measure of holding people accountable. No matter how young they are capable of murdering and murdering again and doing outrageous acts that somebody has to be held accountable for their own behavior. And I think it's hard, it's difficult. I love kids. I know a lot of them are damaged by whatever happened in their lives. But at the same time, we are all accountable for our own behavior. We have to start teaching this earlier. Thank you.
Great. Any other debate, members? Seeing no more debate, Senator Martin, you're recognized to close on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think from the cases that I handled when I was a prosecutor, these are clearly the most egregious cases. Homicide cases are devastating to families that have lost a loved one. These cases are devastating not just to the families, but also to the individual, as Senator Book said, for the rest of their lives. I can't think of anything worse that could be done to a kid, and I think that this penalty is not near as worse what the perpetrator did to a victim, and hopefully we never have to use the statute. Hopefully we never have to. But it's a good law, and it's moving everything in the right direction. I appreciate your support. Thank you.